What's up guys, Chaz here, Side Hustle Network. Welcome back into the channel. In today's video, I'm going to share with you 4 items that recently sold for a combined total of $2,875. These are 4 completely different products in different categories, so it's not like it's all just high-end electronics. I just thought they would be fun items to share in here for a few reasons. 1, they're some of my favorite sales that we've made. I love selling the collector's items that you'll see. And 2, it's gonna give you, if you don't know, an idea of different types of items to look out for. So I'm gonna dive right into the video, show you guys some of these sales that we made. First item up is going to be this Miele espresso / coffee maker. I had never heard of the brand before. I'm not much of a coffee connoisseur, but I'm very happy that I now have this up in my database to look out for in the future. So we actually received this item on a liquidation pallet, which is just overstock material, customer return products for major retail stores. We typically buy these liquidation pallets from various suppliers. No, we're not giving out which suppliers we use, by the way. Just don't even ask. We typically buy them for our local warehouse sale that we do here, and some product goes on eBay. Typically when we get the pallet in, we go through item by item. We will test and clean whatever needs to be. After that, we then decide what goes on which platform, whether it's Facebook Marketplace, eBay, our local warehouse sale. We have a brick and mortar shop. We have a few different outlets that we can put these products into. Now I will say, when we got this in, I opened the box, I saw it was a coffee maker, and immediately I knew it was a coffee maker because it was absolutely trashed with coffee beans and grounds. This thing had obviously been used by a customer and then returned for whatever reason, and my first instinct was this thing is going to be busted, it's not going to work, it's too good to be true, which is why it's not been on video here on the channel, because I wanted to wait several months to make sure it was not going to be customer returned back to me. So I took this home. It was about 30 minutes of actually taking every little piece apart and cleaning everything out, making it look as pretty as I could. The listed ones there was more new than there were used. Even the used ones were listed for about $900 all the way up to $1,500. And then of course the new ones are more in the $1,300 to $1,500 range. I paid about $75 for this. So I was not going to be greedy and try to maximize my profit by selling it for $1,200, which I probably could have if I waited a month or two, but I would have much rather quick flip this thing if I could. So I did list it for $1,200 knowing I would get some watchers or offers, and I was very fortunate that within 24 hours, it was actually about 12 hours, it was overnight, the next morning I got an $875 offer, which I gladly accepted. So after my fees, after my shipping involved, I was left with a net profit, that's after my fees and my shipping and my buy cost, of about $630, making this our single biggest profit item that we have ever flipped. Now, we've made much more profit on one type of SKU before like this, but it was multiple quantity that were sold. This was just one single flip that we did that made over $600 profit. So add that brand of coffee machines to your BOLO list. Next up, we have this Fujitsu ScanSnap IX500. If you ever see anything called Fujitsu ScanSnap, please do yourself a favor and look it up. So many people, especially these ones that are just in kind of a plain generic brown box, a lot of people walk right by these thinking they're just a generic item. Always, always, always check brown boxed items, especially if you are in thrift stores. This specific one was found inside of a Goodwill actually for $15. This thing was factory sealed. Absolutely beautiful box condition. And shout out to Wifey, because Wifey is the one that actually went out and found this. Now, quick story on how Trista found this, because it's kind of a cool setup on how it happened. This is during the time when The Office Clue came out. These were a $48 buy cost, and they were selling on Amazon for over $120. So once I found out what the resale value was on this game, made a few phone calls, found one store that was able to sell all 5 to 1 customer. I was tied down here hosting a warehouse sale, so I was not about to close my doors to customers and jolt out there like I would normally do. Again, this was an hour drive, but the potential profit would have made it worth it because there's actually other stores in the area that we can go hit. So that's a little side tip, is if you are ever driving out for a specific store or item, always try to make it worth your while and hit the thrift stores in the area too. So since I was tied down, and I have an awesome wife who is willing to make the drive. I sent her out to go pick these items up, all 5 of them. I knew we were gonna make several $100s profit, so it was worth the drive to go out there and get them. But while she was in the area, right next door was a Goodwill she popped into. She went about her normal shopping routine, which she focuses on clothing and shoes mostly, but she knows firsthand by seeing the stuff that I've sold, always check the electronics. So she walked by, she saw this brown box, and she's heard me say it 1,000 times, always check brown boxes. It was factory sealed, she looked it up real quick, came back home, dropped the clues game off here at the office, and she also said, oh, by the way, you might want this. Again, she paid $15 for this. I think originally I had listed this late at night for about $850, $875, somewhere in that range. On items that we have such a low buy cost for, I am absolutely taking offers. Now, if we had paid up several $100s for this, I might hold out and try to get more money out of it. This was listed for 2 days. I did have several offers come in, and a lot of them were pretty low on the $400 to $500 level. I knew this was worth much more. Someone came in at a $600 offer. I countered at $750. They countered at $675, and I said, you know what? We paid 15 bucks. Let's do $675. After our fees, our shipping, our cost, our net profit was $525 on this. So ScanSnap, add that to your list. Next up, we've got this awesome lunchbox. Talk about pure collector's item right here. This is a 1954 Superman vs. Robot lunchbox set, complete with the original thermos. Now, this is an item that I slightly regret selling at $400. It was worth much more if I would have held out for the right buyer. It was not in great condition. If it had been better condition, there are sold comps for this specific set for upwards of $2,000 for mint condition ones. I took $400 because I actually found it on Facebook Marketplace, just blindly scrolling through, and because I look at collector's items, Facebook Marketplace will automatically start showing me those types of listings. They had this listed for $300, which obviously that's way too much for me to buy for resale, but for personal collection, that wasn't a bad price. And it's a little mind-blowing to sit here and talk these numbers like, oh, $300 wasn't that bad of a price when we're talking about a lunchbox. But that's the collection game. It's a whole different world once you get into it. Anyways, he was asking $300. I countered at $100. He came back at $150, and I said, game, let's do it. So I paid $150 cash for this. I knew it would take a little bit to sell. I held on to it for about 3 months. I should have pushed it out just a few more months and been a little bit more patient to see if I was able to actually sell this for more. But $150 turned into $400. Not a bad flip to make. So after my fees, after my shipping, and on my collector's items like this, the higher dollar stuff, I do add additional insurance. I do signature confirmation. After all that was said and done, my $150 buy cost is taken back out and left with a net profit of $174. So obviously it's gonna be tough for you to find that exact type of lunchbox just floating around garage sales and estate sales, but I wanted to share that one more so, not to give you a bolo for that exact lunchbox, but just lunchboxes, the vintage lunchbox category in general is something to really look into. There are so many different ones. I've got a Happy Days one up here that's worth about $60 to $80. There's just been a lot of cool ones I've come across, so I just want to share that on here just so you can start to research it. Go onto eBay, just type in vintage lunchbox and start looking through sold comps so that when you are in thrift stores and estate sales and garage sales, you're able to keep an eye out for this stuff and maybe find one that looks old, vintage, something a little bit interesting. You pick that up and start doing some research on it. And real quick, that's why a lot of us YouTubers enjoy showing these what sold videos. Not so we can sit up here and say, look what we sold this week. It's so that we can share more actual items and categories and types of products for you to keep an eye out for. Because the coolest thing is when we get a message that says, hey, I saw that in your video, so I went out and looked for it and I found it and made a profit. That's what pumps us up, and that's why we create these videos. Last but certainly not least, probably my favorite flip of all time. I'm slightly questioning if I do regret selling this as a set because I personally want to keep them forever. You talk about a 90s kid, you talk about my childhood, as many of you will understand. I got into the sealed Ninja Turtle game, and so I've been keeping my eye out for certain deals, and I'm using a combination of sniping some of them off of Mercari, off eBay itself. I have not been lucky enough to find one of these sealed at a garage sale yet, but I will definitely pick that up if I ever find that at a garage sale. But we're talking about this right here. 1988 Ninja Turtles. There were 10 made. There's different variations. You've got soft head and these different terms you can look into. Now, unfortunately, this was not a true 1988 complete set. There were a few of these. I believe 3 of them were from 1989. If this had been a complete 1988, I would have actually been able to sell this for much more. I was all in on this deal for about $350. I had gotten them from different places on online sources, just one at a time as I saw the right price, and then eventually made the full collection. I had actually displayed these up here on my wall for many months. I think I probably had these for at least 8 to 10 months, somewhere in that range, just for my own personal enjoyment, my collection. Unfortunately, the day came when I actually had to get them listed up. Now I had my complete set. I'm making space for new inventory coming up that's going on the collector's wall. So I did have these listed for about $1,200 for a while. There was a bunch of watchers. I think at one point this thing peaked at about 70 watchers. I was constantly sending out offers every single week. No one was biting at that price, so that's when I started to taper it down week by week. Eventually, I hit the $925 mark where somebody, and it actually was a local person, these shipped about an hour away from us, which I think is cool. And it saved on the shipping cost too. But $925 is what these sold for. I was in it for about $350. So after all the fees, the shipping cost, my original buy cost of that $350, I was able to pull off about a $429 net profit. Cool part is, part of these that came in were actually part of a huge lot of Ninja Turtles, about 300 different ones, not all sealed, they're all loose, but a few sealed ones were in there. So I'm able to keep a few of those ones for my personal collection, and later on down the road we may list those at some point, but for now I'm keeping those. And when it comes to things like these Ninja Turtles, you're going to have all kinds of different characters, different variations, different years. You can always tell by on the bottom of their foot, sometimes on the back of the leg, like the inner thigh. There's different areas, and most of the time you should be able to find a timestamp. So if you are out in Goodwill or garage sales and you see one of these Ninja Turtles, some are worth a lot of money, some are just commons, they're not worth more than $5 or $6. So what you do is you type in Ninja Turtles, put in that date that you can find on the bottom of the foot, typically is where those are going to be, or on the back. And then if there's any special things about that, you're going to have ones dressed as samurais, you're going to have ones that have different types of features on them. Put that in as a keyword and then search both active and sold listings. That's typically where you're going to be able to do some of your research and get an idea for how much these are worth. So there you have it, folks, 4 items that you should probably keep an eye out for. Now obviously some of these collector's items you are not going to just randomly find at garage sales commonly. So these types of items, you're gonna have to go out there and hunt these down specifically. You could do this a couple different ways. If you want to snipe auctions off eBay, if you want to look at Mercari listings where people maybe just don't know how valuable it is and they're listing it up too cheap, you can oftentimes buy it then. Facebook Marketplace is a huge opportunity, not only because there's a lot of really great stuff to buy, but you can set notifications based on those keywords. So if you type in Ninja Turtles and then you can hit the little bell there, it's going to notify you every time that there's new listings with those keywords, the same way that you can do on eBay as well. So hopefully that helps maybe add a few more items to keep an eye out for you. If you enjoy this type of video, please do us a favor, smash that like button, be sure to subscribe if you have not already. And I'm curious, how many of you have bought and sold some of the items that were listed in today's video or something similar? Comment below. I always love to see what kind of flips you guys are doing too. As always, thanks for tuning in. We will see you in the next video.